Hello, my name's Johnny, and I wanted to share this experience that happened to me about a year ago. It still haunts me to this day. Whenever I think about it, this chill runs down my spine. It was just any other night, or so I thought, but it turned out to be my worst nightmare. And it all began with what I believed to be just sleep paralysis. I'd read about sleep paralysis before, this weird state between waking and sleeping where you can't move, you can't speak. Some people see shadows or feel an evil presence. I always thought it was your brain messing with you until it happened to me. It was around 2 a.m. and I suddenly woke up feeling this odd sense of alertness, like something wasn't quite right. My room was covered in darkness except for the dim light of the moon coming in through the blinds. I tried to roll over just to shake off the uneasy feeling, but I couldn't move. It was like my body was made of stone. My heart started pounding and panic set in. I wanted to yell for help. My voice was trapped inside me. As I lay there, frozen, shadows started to form in the corner of the room, and it was darker than any darkness around it. This dense, swirling mass that slowly took on a more human shape. I wanted to close my eyes to convince myself it wasn't real, but I couldn't even blink. The figure started to move towards me. Its movements were silent but deliberate. As it got closer, the air around it felt colder, and this sense of dread started to fill the room. The figure stood beside my bed, staring down at me. It didn't have eyes, but I could feel it watching me, peering into me. It leaned closer, and a hand, or what should have been a hand, reached down towards my chest. I could feel this pressure, this unbearable weight on my chest that made it hard to breathe. And the room started to spin. I started to struggle for air. Each breath, just a battle. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. But as it disappeared, it whispered my name. Johnny. A hiss that seemed to echo around the room long after it was gone. The pressure lifted and I could move again. I gasped for air, my body shaking with sobs. I turned on every light in the house and stayed up the rest of the night. I was too terrified to close my eyes again. And the next day I tried to convince myself it was just a nightmare, just a trick of my mind. But deep down I knew it was real. I could still feel that cold weight on my chest, the evil presence of something otherworldly. It wasn't just sleep paralysis, it was something far darker, something I couldn't explain. Since that night, I've had trouble sleeping. Every shadow makes my heart race, and the dread every night. I don't know if the figure's ever going to return, but the fear it caused in me, it's still around. I've read more about sleep paralysis and shadow people since then, trying to find answers. Some say they're harmless. What I'm feeling at night, that was anything but harmless. That was real. That was terrifying. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. So if you ever find yourself unable to move in the dead of night, and you see a shadow that seems a bit too dark, a bit too menacing, well, just hope it doesn't come any closer, because some things, once experienced, will change you forever. Hi there, I'm Fred, and I'm going to share with you something that happened in my family's cabin one weekend. It was meant to be a peaceful escape from city life, but it turned into a night of inexplicable terror that changed how I felt about being alone in the dark. The cabin was secluded, nestled among towering pines and overlooking a scenic lake. It was a perfect setting for relaxation until the second night, when things took a turn for the surreal. I went to bed early, exhausted from the day of hiking and fishing. But around midnight, I snapped awake, enveloped by this profound sense of silence, something unnatural. As I lay there trying to discern what had woken me, I realized I couldn't move my muscles. My heart began to race. Panic started to fill the air. This was sleep paralysis, something I experienced a few times before, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. Slowly, the room started to get cold, and a strange, faint light began to seep in through the windows. It wasn't the moonlight. This was different, bluish and flickering. My eyes took a second to adjust, and then I saw them. 3 figures standing at the foot of my bed. They were unlike any human or shadow figure associated with this typical type of sleep paralysis. These beings were thin, were elongated with long arms, long legs, and their eyes black as oil. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. One of the figures moved closer, its movements unnervingly smooth. It leaned over me, its face inches from mine, and I could see my own terror reflected in its glossy, oily black, emotionless eyes. I felt this pressure on my chest as though the creature were pushing down with some unseen force. My breath became labored, each inhale, each exhale a struggle. The room filled with this low humming sound, and the air around me started to vibrate with energy. I couldn't understand. The figures were communicating without speaking, their presence intensely evasive, as if they were probing my mind, searching for something I couldn't comprehend. Just as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished. The light faded, the pressure lifted, and I could move again. I sat up, gasping for air, my body drenched in sweat. The cabin was silent once more, and the darkness complete. I spent the rest of the night with the lights on. I was too terrified to sleep, replaying the encounter over and over in my mind. When morning came, I packed up and I left, vowing never to return. Since that night, I've tried to make sense of what happened. Was it a hallucination? Was it a product of isolation? Just the eerie setting of the woods? Or had something truly otherworldly visited me? The memory of those piercing eyes and the overwhelming feeling of being scanned still haunts me. The experience has left me with more questions than answers, and a lingering fear in the back of my head. A fear of the dark that follows me even now. If you ever find yourself alone in a cabin in the woods and the night grows too silent, be wary of the light that should not be there and the visitors that might come with it. Sometimes what happens in the shadows is more real and more terrifying than anything we could possibly imagine. Thank you, friends. This has been your host, Bill Hoaxman. If you like this, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you for joining us for Tales of Sleep Paralysis. And until next time, every shadow has a story.